everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. This is going to be the astro weather for the week of June 25th through July the 2nd. Excited to talk to you guys about the week ahead. Just a heads up, it's a long month, so we're actually next Sunday going to be touching on the astrology for July. So that'll be more so next week, especially because we have a number of aspects that are actually quite active this week. So catch me next week to talk all about July. But if you guys cannot wait, the July 2023 astrological horoscopes for all the 12 signs is already live. Make sure you check that out. You can listen to your rising sign or your sun sign to get an idea of what next month is going to look like. But we got bigger fish to fry this week. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you click the button below when you're subscribed. Make sure you also give me a thumbs up. Drop me a comment also if you're a first-time viewer or if you're a new subscriber. I'd love to hear from you and how you guys are doing with this weather. So let's just kind of go ahead and get into it. Let me first take you guys to today. That would be helpful, right? And like I said, this is going to be for the 25th of June through July the 2nd. So those of you guys who are part of Sunday Crew, happy Sunday. I hope you guys are doing well. I can tell you one thing is for sure, this week is going to be active, okay? We're going to see some rocks and rattles and rolls this week. We are going to start to begin to see some of the beginning of the Uranus squares. We're actually going to see Mars come into a square with Uranus. And whenever we're dealing with Uranus squares, it's basically setting up for unexpected circumstances. Those hard 90-degree angles likely bring confrontation, challenges, pressure, and you never know what you're gonna kind of get with Uranian energy. We've also got Mars that's in Leo, so it is loud and it's proud. It's leading the way right now, and Mars in Leo is hot. Hot weather, hot tempers, sexy hot, and we are going to be seeing first Mars come into the square with Uranus, followed by Venus. So there's going to be this energy of challenges between Mars and kind of Venus type energy all week long. And we know that the fixed signs generally don't want to change. After we see the Mars-Uranus square, which is obviously quite explosive, we're going to see a Venus-Uranus square, which is definitely going to kind of upset the apple cart a little bit, especially when it comes to financial matters and relationships. Venus in Leo is just behind Mars. Venus in Leo is very romantic, it's dramatic, it's showy, and we are going to see several of these Venus square Uranus aspects throughout the next month or two because we're going to see a Venus retrograde. So as I get into those specific transits, I would really recommend making a note of what happens when Venus squares Uranus this week, because you're going to see Venus backtrack at the end of July, and she will make that square 2 separate times, okay? So what does it feel like to see challenges between planets in Taurus and planets in Leo, right? Fixed Venusian energy, which is challenging Uranian type of energy. And when Mars and Venus square Uranus, it's very dynamic, right? It creates the potential for volatile energy and can manifest a number of different ways. So I want you guys to have my hot takes, the list of how some things can kind of go this week before we even get into the aspects, and what might happen when we see these planets come into some squares in astrology. Now, the number one thing for me is relationship disruptions, okay? It is part of the energy really for the summer because Venus will square off with Uranus several times. But with Mars being there, it adds a little bit more of an active punch. Mars represents action and aggression, while Venus symbolizes love and harmony. So when we see a square between these two planets and Uranus, there is sudden change and rebellion, and it can lead to conflicts, power struggles, unexpected disruptions in relationships. It's not unusual for couples to experience sudden arguments, for us to be experiencing impulsive behavior, and have this really strong impulsive need for independence. So you might feel that streak all week long to kind of stir the pot. Be mindful that that is in the skies, okay? So it's not just you. Likely we're feeling this kind of collectively. And something else that you guys are also going to notice is that there is going to be this theme revolving around unconventional attractions. Primarily because Uranus is something that is kind of unusual or strange or futuristic. So when we see these squares between, especially Venus and Uranus, generally that's what kind of like manifests. And when you throw Mars into the mix, it creates like this spark for unconventional attractions and unexpected romantic encounters. So it can materialize for some people for chance encounters, love at first sight, suddenly meeting somebody, relationships starting up very quickly. And people may feel drawn to individuals who are different from their usual type and engage in impulsive romantic decisions. And this aspect can bring excitement, but also a lot of instability in love and relationships. So be mindful that actions have consequences, where Mars is kind of focusing on passion and desire. Venus is going to come through, and there can be some disruptions in relationships if we're just kind of impulsively kind of going after what looks good. And it can create some challenges in pre-existing relationships as well, especially considering Venus is the sign of like, you know, lovers and playmates. So I could definitely see a lot of people who are kind of taking chances in relationships and doing something outside of like their relationship norm. Obviously rebellious action, you see that anytime there are some hard aspects between Mars and Uranus, and this can represent rebellion and a desire for freedom. So likely there can be opportunities to stir the pot, really because some of us want to break free in some way. And when we see squares taking place between Uranus and Venus, it leads to you know, taking impulsive actions in relationships and doing things that we may not generally do. So people may feel the need to break free from constraints and challenge social norms or engage in unconventional behaviors that could potentially disrupt these relationships. And it doesn't mean that it has to be just purely romantic relationships. It could be friendships. Uranus is very much tied to friendships. It can also very much be about our relationship to our children, because Leo is about youth, or our playmates. It can also be our relationship to our resources and also banking. Many people don't realize that Taurus actually has to do with the banking system, the physical space which the money is held. And Leo deals with like gambling, and it deals with risk, and it deals with the markets. So I could definitely see a lot of people breaking away or wanting to break away and make changes in where they're banking, how they're investing. And there can definitely be a lot of volatility throughout this next week or so with financial matters. So just be mindful of that, you guys. I've seen a lot of people impulsively want to move money and jump into things, and we're going to see a bit of a roller coaster with the Venus retrograde all summer long. Something else that I see a lot also with Mars-Uranus squares is like a theme revolving around sexual experimentation. Because Mars represents passion and Venus symbolizes love and sensuality, the square to Uranus can definitely bring up being more open-minded when it comes to, you know, your intimate life, and definitely a desire for something that might be kind of unusual or outside of your typical kind of like date night, or you know, even trying to meet somebody a different type that maybe you're kind of becoming interested in, or meeting somebody that's very different than what you would usually be attracted to. And it is possible that we are opening up more to unconventional desires or having spontaneous kind of opportunities for meeting people and connections. So like I said, with Mars transits, things happen very quickly. And then with Uranus, Venus transits, it's like there can be some disruption. So while it's going to be in the skies that people are more passionate, more likely to be seeking some of these encounters, there's no guarantee that they're going to stick, or that they're going to you know, pan out in terms of long-term romantic connection. So if you're just getting to know somebody, or if you meet somebody under these transits over the next week, it's important to be mindful that it's going to take a little time throughout the summer to see the Venus retrograde kind of settle down, and see whether or not those people that we've met may still be staying with us come the fall of 2023. Now, a positive aspect of these squares can be creative breakthroughs. And I think that with Mars and Venus being in the same sign, there's obviously a lot of passion and a lot of creativity. Especially in the sign of Leo, it's wonderful for creative expression. And the squares to Uranus can provide an intense burst of innovative and original ideas. Especially if you're a creative, if you're an artist, if you're a performer, if you're a dancer, if you're a comedian, if you're an actor, because this is kind of the signs connected to Leo, you know, being on stage, these particular types of like hobbies or occupations. And when they come into this square, it's going to give us the opportunity to fuel artistic inspiration, and we'll take more risks in our creative endeavors. And it can lead to some of us having some groundbreaking artistic expression. So big risk, big reward sometimes is what I see between some of these squares. In the midst of the Venus retrograde, we will also see Venus square Jupiter several times. So to me, it kind of feels like we feel inspired, there's a lot of passion, we get involved in something that might feel like a little risky, whether that's opening ourselves up to love or trying a new hobby or being more creative and expressive. And it may actually pay off. You guys might see that with some of the squares later at the end of the Venus retrograde. And a big one for me is also sudden financial matters. Guys, trust me on this. We're going to see some wild stuff. Having Venus go retrograde through a sign that does deal with risks and also gambling and taking chances, we're definitely going to see a lot of things that are going to change in these arenas. Venus is associated with money as well as material possessions. And when it's in a square to Taurus or second house energy Uranus, there's definitely unexpected financial disruptions. Sometimes financial spending that's more impulsive, or sudden changes in our financial situations. And it's important to be cautious with impulsive financial decisions during this time. I could see just a lot of people indulging for the sake of indulging, right? And partying or excessive spending or elaborate, shows of affection or art or jewelry or just over the top, because it's also squaring Jupiter at the same time. I can't think of like a better analogy, I guess I should say, or example of Mars square Uranus, especially in these two signs, as just this last week, where you have two pretty much, I guess we could say like very wealthy men, borderline like billionaires. We've got Elon Musk and what's his name from Facebook? His name always escapes me, but you guys know who I'm talking about, Zuckerberg. Mars coming into a square with Uranus is probably going to be more amping up this discussion revolving around those two having a bit of a boxing match, apparently. If you haven't heard about that news, I guess like Elon Musk, challenging Mark Zuckerberg to a fight. And this is very Mars and Leo. It's showboaty. It's, leading with a sense of the ego. And then the square to Uranus and Taurus could quite literally be a shock and surprise in regards to two very wealthy people, Taurus, going at it in a ring. I'm curious to see what happens personally, whether or not it plays out. That's neither here nor there. But the lavish expression of pride and also resources and money, very Mars square Uranus. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But I think we'll see more of this throughout the week. You want to be mindful that it is in the skies, right? Mars is the planet of action, and it's about war. Sometimes it's about conflict, cutting, severing, burning, attacking. So with the squares to Uranus, it's prime time for there to be sudden explosive things going on in the world, especially because Mars is heat and Uranus can deal with gases and things that blow up. So we might hear more about that stuff. We might hear about increasing temperatures and how that's having an impact also environmentally, and more potentially even about fires, obviously, touch wood. But this is a time where you want to be really cautious and careful about the ego and just kind of reacting to people, because you never know how somebody else is going to react or respond. Because Mars Uranus, people's behavior can kind of just like turn on a dime. So I'll just leave it at that. So these are some of the themes that you're going to be kind of feeling throughout this week. If you're watching here on Sunday, once again, happy Sunday. We wake up to the moon in Virgo, and quite honestly, yuck. We've got a mutable square taking place, moon in opposition to Neptune, kind of feeling like we're swimming in the cosmic soup. Generally, when the moon is moving through the sign of Virgo, we're taking a look at what's going on with Mercury. And what's happening is the moon's picking up on a mutable cross. It's also picking up on the fact that Mercury is coming into a 90-degree square with Neptune. So more cloudedness in communication, missing phone calls, forgetting things, intentional disruption of information or manipulation of things that you're hearing or things that you're seeing on the news. And I think today is just going to be a prime example. Some of the stuff that you're going to be hearing the next 48 hours on the news is, quite frankly, potentially hogwash. With that moon in opposition to Neptune square Mercury, I could also see like a lot of people trying to be very detail oriented and wanting to make sense of things or wanting to make plans. But with mutable squares and oppositions, things are changing. So you might kind of feel today that your plans aren't quite going according to plan. That there is some sense of change or something that is kind of shifting, or people that are oversleeping, or somebody's like, I'm still working, or I'm recovering from Saturday night. Yeah, kind of expect that. We're getting a slight trine to Uranus, but I don't think that that's enough to save us in the midst of some of that kind of mutable confusion, to be honest with you. We got to wait until we get Mercury out of that square with Neptune before there's going to be more clarity and communication. You're looking at like Tuesday. And I do think things get a little bit better when the moon goes into Libra. So we're going to pick up on a trine to Pluto in the afternoon. So moon trine Pluto is like, okay, now we're starting to feel like the plans are coming together. We've come out of the fog. And then the moon is going to go into Libra, and that's going to be tonight on Sunday evening. And then we're starting to pick up the energy of Venus in the sign of Leo. So yes, you will be feeling probably Saturday, today, that build of the Mars-Uranus square. It's not going to be exact until Monday, but if you're sensitive, you're feeling it. But, moon in Libra, I mean, I think it's more about relationship. It's more about harmony. It's more about partnership. We're still feeling the trine to Pluto. And as we see the moon go through Libra, this will be mostly overnight. The moon starts coming into a square with the sun. So this will be like the first quarter square. So it is going to feel a little discombobulated in the evening, but I feel like if you're going to make plans, it might be better to be doing it in the PM hours. You might find that it's easier to kind of get along and actually see other people. And that most of the day, it's just kind of like, trying to make plans, but feeling like things keep getting delayed. That Mercury square Neptune, though, guys, it's going to be really strong. So I would say people who don't follow through on plans, or people who are, not calling you back, or people who are making excuses, would not surprise me. Sunday and Monday, there may be a little bit of that going on, especially at a 27 degrees. So it's a Gemini degree. I could see a lot of people having plans with like 2 people and like trying to decide who they're going to see, and calling somebody being like, yeah, I'm just going to stay in for tonight. And then you kind of like find out like, oh, they actually went out and did something, but they told me they were at home. You can see that kind of stuff that's potentially setting up on Sunday night. So be mindful that that's in the sky. Then we are going to take it to Monday, and this will be the 26th. And thankfully, the sun-moon square is happening when most of us are asleep. So we're going to wake up starting to come out of that square. And then Monday morning, I think still kind of feeling the sun and the moon in 2 cardinal signs. It can very much be about relationship adjustment, right? And, Venus is the planet that we're really going to be focusing on. Well, Venus rules Taurus, and we're starting to see Venus come into a square with Uranus and Taurus, and we see the Mars-Uranus square that's setting up on Monday morning, and it's at a 21. So I think we're going to see a continuation of this highlighted theme of some of the international news in regards to threat of war or intensity revolving around military or armed mobilization. That's both, I think, the Mars-Uranus, although this is more explosive things that could quite literally blow up, or like bombs or things that are out of nowhere. And also because we have Pluto back at 29 degrees. I remember telling you guys, watch what's going to start happening around the world. There's going to be this increased tendency for really the next month or two, where there's going to be a lot of military mobilization. So it's no surprise that some of this stuff is going on. in Russia. I have no comment in regards to that. It's neither here nor there. I'm just observing that it does come through the astrology. And I know that, you know, Putin's chart is just like lit up like a Christmas tree. Like really the next couple of weeks, especially as Mars is, you know, coming into the late degrees of Leo. So Monday is the day. You're going to see it in the morning, depending on where you are. So it can be much earlier in the morning, like 6, 7 a.m. Pacific, and it's going to be closer to 10 or 11 a.m. in the eastern coast. But this is when the Mars-Uranus square begins, okay? So this is about something growing because it's a Sagittarius degree, or it's about something accelerating. It can also be about things involving like law, legality, international matters, things also regarding like planes. So we might hear something crazy about like planes dropping things or planes exploding or planes crashing. Obviously, touch wood, I don't like saying this stuff, but we may see something like this with this square. Please be mindful. Do not be rushing, right? Take your time. Be mindful of demeanors and tempers and attitude because they can flare. And, you know, Mars is going to be, you know, coming into conjunction with Lilith. And so that's another theme related to like the Venus retrograde. We're going to see like Lilith kind of go in and out of Leo a bit. She's very erratic. She moves quite frequently. But we're going to see her make several conjunctions with Mars and also with Venus. So it's going to bring up a lot of like drama and conflict in regards to romantic relationships and this really intense kind of feminine archetype of like stirring the pot, right? And especially in the sign of Leo, I think it's going to be revolving around celebrities and people who are in like the media and younger people and like performers. And scandal definitely comes up with Mars and Venus in the same sign. And then the squares to Uranus is like scandals involving celebrities, involving children, involving performers, and issues revolving around money, right? Uranus and Taurus. So there might be some shocking things revolving around children and relationships and money. And like I said, Lilith will go in and out of that kind of mix. Now, this very same day, we're going to see that Mercury is going to be entering into the sign of Cancer. So I think that's going to be much later in the day. Yeah. But we will see in the PM hours Mercury's ingress into Cancer. And we are also going to start seeing the moon come into a sextile with Mars and Venus. And we'll see a moon in opposition to Chiron. So this can definitely be bringing up some like, okay, trying to like, you know, work with other people, trying to communicate, trying to kind of touch base on relationships and how we're feeling and relating to others. But we have Mars in a square to Uranus and we have Venus coming in for the square as well. So you're going to start feeling the emotional or financial or, you know, like relationship challenge repercussions from the blow-ups that may come up on Monday. Okay. And I think with Mercury coming into Cancer, this is about the mind connecting with the spirit, the mind connecting with the intuition, with the emotions. And it's much more of like an intuitive placement. It's definitely about remembering the past and connecting to home or family. And it's a little bit more sentimental and a little bit more emotional. That's pretty much it for Monday. Just watch out, like I said, for that Mars-Uranus square, lashing out, tantrums, things that are hot or quick or explosive. Don't be rushing to or from places all day long. That Mars square is going to be active until, you know, Mars gets to at least 22, 23 degrees. So it'll be there pretty much. You're feeling it Saturday, I think, all the way through like Tuesday night. And then we get to Tuesday, the 27th, and we wake up in the morning and we see Mercury come into a trine with the South Node. Okay, so the mind, the messenger, trining the South Node, how we are reflecting on the past and talking about what was lost, what has changed, transitioned, what has been let go of. So definitely it can be like an emotional kind of like day where we feel like we're doing some clearing. I think you guys are going to feel this A lot also on Wednesday when the moon enters into Scorpio, so maybe you're feeling a little early. But Mercury trine the South Node does allow us to touch on the past, and allows us to connect to voices from the past or ancestors from the past. Be a really great day to like reflect on, or doing research into your family lineage. If you're looking for something in the house that's been missing, it might turn up. You might hear from someone from the past. It might be a good day to like look through old journals. That's something else that you might consider doing. And you might just feel like a little bit more like you're reminiscing. And when we have the trine to the South Node, we have a sextile to the North Node. So it's like we have to look to the past in order to be able to clear that and also actively become better prepared for the future. And the history does repeat itself, right? So we might notice a lot of those synchronicities throughout this week. Then we are going to be seeing the Venus-Lilith conjunction. So it's interesting that Lilith is dropping down and then she's going to conjunct Venus. And if you guys took my webinar for the Venus retrograde in Leo, you guys know I talked a lot about how Venus is, going to have contact with Lilith and Mars is going to have contact with Lilith. So there's going to be some kind of drama that's being stirred up, maybe about relationship past or, people, being reminiscing and like, hearing from other people. So that can kind of come up as well. But with Lilith and Venus, people are really expressing like their raw sexuality, or they're like very passionate and very intense. And it's a fire sign. So it's going to be about people going after what they want. So there can be like this very intense, ruthless energy kind of in the skies also. That's just kind of like, well, that's just the way that it is. It's what I want. Or people, enjoying and kind of getting sucked into the drama that might be kind of playing out this week. Really, that's the only aspect. We're going to see Mercury in a trine to the South Node most of the day. We're going to start to pick up on the moon coming into a square with Pluto, and that's going to be later in the evening on Tuesday the 27th. And so this moon square Pluto, you guys want to watch because we're going to feel the emotional pressure of like where we're feeling challenges in terms to our relationships with others, our homes, power struggles between superiors and also our partnerships. There's like this who's in charge type of dynamic. And then the moon is going to cross into the sign of Scorpio. And when we wake up on Wednesday the 28th, we wake up with the moon in that sign, and we also wake up with the moon conjunct the South Node, trine Mercury. Okay, the nodes are connected to the moon, so it is about what's kind of going on collectively out in the world. The 28th makes me feel like it's a day where people are waking up and there's a lot of grief, or there's a lot of mourning, something that could have happened in the news. Scorpio is a sign that deals with death, change, transformation, crisis, purging. So the moon coming into conjunction with the South Node in this sign already is very sensitive, but the fact that it's going to pick up a trine to Mercury, and it's also going to pick up a trine to Saturn retrograde, and it's also going to pick up a trine to the sun. This is going to be a grand water trine happening pretty much all day on the 29th. Now the pros is it's a day where if you need to do some emotional housekeeping, like cry it out, angry cry, you might wake up doing that in the morning. You might feel really frustrated. Stay hydrated, right? Opt to try to detox today. Or fast, or doing something that's going to really kind of clean out your system or clean out your bowels, as kind of gross as it sounds. It's a good time to do that. And be just staying really hydrated, drinking a lot of water, because that's going to help you move through this. But I anticipate with Mars square Uranus and the moon conjunct the South Node, it's going to be about people talking about losses or things going on financially. And where there's been some upsets that's been going on in the market. Now, part of the, Mars-Uranus squares where things can sometimes happen too quickly, and part of the Venus square Jupiter is where there's sudden growth, and whether or not the growth is something that is manageable, right? So there can be relationships taking, up steam too quickly, or, people trying to build buildings too quickly, and then they're not secure. They lack the proper foundational kind of needs, right? We've all seen where the relationships are, going too quickly and then they burn out overly fast, or where the foundation isn't built properly and then all of a sudden there's the house that collapses. So what we want to be thinking about all summer is like, is the way that we're growing sustainable, right? And that can be in a number of different ways. So you got to look at where Leo is in your chart. There's something changing that's like putting the pressure on both Jupiter and Uranus, and it's going to get stress tested, and we may see some things just kind of like pop. Anyway, my point is that you're going to really start to see where we are collectively feeling like, oh, I lost this thing that I loved, or this person, or I lost a significant amount of money, or I had to like let this thing go. And I think people don't really cope very well when the moon and the south node are coming together in Scorpio. So if you wake up on the 28th and you're like, what the heck is going on? Why am I so emotional? You know why. And it's important that I think as the moon is picking up a trine to Mercury, you're able to reflect or talk about it or write it out. And then as we see the moon hit 6 and 7 degrees, which it's going to later in the afternoon, the moon is going to trine the sun and it's in harmony. And then we're going to see the moon trine Saturn in Pisces. And it feels like we're kind of emotionally bouncing back a little bit in the afternoon. So we might kind of feel a little moody throughout the day, right? That's where the term comes from, moody. It's just a moon phase. But collective loss. I've gotten so many messages, so many emails, all kinds of things about some of this stuff in regards to the submarine, and people asking questions about it. And I touched on it a little bit during my horoscopes, and I said just very simply, Saturn is about machines, okay? It's very common out in the world when Saturn goes retrograde or when it's stationing, we hear that the actual foundation or the structure of machines get tested. So there's no coincidence that in this last week, when Saturn went retrograde, we hear all of this stuff about, oh, this, issue with like a submarine. And I would go back, but when did Saturn retrograde? What day was it? There we go. So it was right around mid-June. So it was this last 10 days. So right around the time that was happening, then this news comes out. Saturn is in the sign of Pisces, okay? So this is all about the ocean and things that deal with under the sea and the depths of under the sea. And Saturn retrograde in Pisces anyway would be testing the structure of something and whether or not it can like have the proper equipment when it comes to like diving, right? So there's a lot of other factors that are going on, but I think that's why we're hearing a lot about this. I also have been like super nerding out and digging deep into some of these aspects in regards to the event charts with the dive. And obviously outside of the time that we know that the submarine was launched, we don't know exactly for sure when it potentially imploded because there was a delay in when the news came out. We hear scattered events of them saying, it could have happened this time, but it may have happened that time. No coincidence that it all comes out when there's a lot of other really big news going on in the world, like other, accidents and shipwrecks that are potentially losing tons of people who are trying to obviously relocate. We also hear lots of things in regards to the banking world that's kind of playing out. So just go do your research. Look at what's happened while we were all talking about the submarine. What else has been kind of going on in the world in terms of financial scandals, banking scandals, political scandals. Like it's kind of like a distraction, guys. Not to take away from what happened, but I haven't really wanted to comment on it because quite frankly, like people died and that was somebody's family. And I don't want to speculate about it too soon. But I am really seriously considering making a video after looking at the chart of the Titanic's event, the sinking of the Titanic, because I have my own viewpoints on that. So hopefully I can put together a video for you guys and talk to you about that because I have some interesting theories. Anyway, but we may hear more about this basically because the trine is going to be kind of getting picked up on the 28th. All right, so that's the only other thing that's going to be happening on Wednesday. So you're going to be in the mood all day, especially with the moon in opposition to Jupiter. We are feeling things kind of bigger than usual. Finally, Mars is coming out of that square. It's lessening in degree, and that's going to take us into Thursday, the 29th. As we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Scorpio, and things are going to feel a little wonky because we're going to feel a number of squares. So this is a day to be mindful where there could actually be some drama that gets stirred up, because the moon is going to first start coming into a square with Venus. That's going to be in the afternoon hours, kind of like noon Pacific, maybe around 3 Eastern time. The moon in Scorpio will oppose Uranus, which is about emotional, destabilizing, shocks, surprises, things that are kind of scary. And then it's going to start coming into a square with Venus and Mars. So if you happen to have any planets around like 20 to 25 degrees of the fixed signs, pay attention on Thursday. There's definitely be some stuff going on where you're like, what is this drama? Moon opposed Uranus is destabilizing, and then the square to Venus and Mars is like, ugh. And so pretty much late afternoon all the way into the evening on Thursday, this is quite a bit of a ruckus, if I can say so. Watch for that. Not the best time to be making financial decisions, not the best time also when it comes to being on the same page as other people. Likely other people are going to want or need other things, or there's going to be some conflict over what brings them happiness or romantic issues. I think there's going to probably be like some really interesting events going on in the news in regards to the financial system. My interest is a little piqued hearing about how there's all of these like new, banking companies that are wanting to kind of get in on creating all of these like platforms for being able to, get in on Bitcoin and creating like trading funds and other things that are going to be based off of Bitcoin. Because I think that the markets, with all these planets in Leo coming into squares with Uranus and Taurus, it's probably going to be like some people pushing back, or it can be some volatility revolving around that. So Venus is starting to kind of pick up and come into that 21 degrees. So we're going to definitely be feeling the Venus square Uranus on Thursday night. And then that's going to take us into the 30th. And that will be Friday. And we're waking up in the morning and we're going to start to see the moon come into Sagittarius. So that's going to be in the morning, round about like 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. You'll definitely feel that shift when the moon comes out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius, because then it's kind of putting an emphasis on Jupiter. And when the moon's in Sag, we feel more optimistic. We feel a little bit more happy-go-lucky, more positive. There's definitely more excitement that's kind of in the skies. And at least we're going to be feeling like the moon is coming into some more harmonious aspects over the weekend as we're getting into the full moon with Mars and with Venus. So I'm not saying it takes away from the Venus-Uranus square, but it definitely helps. And like people are more willing to take chances and take risks and travel and make change when the moon is in Sagittarius. As a reminder, when the moon goes through the mutable signs, though, we got to pay attention because it's going to kind of get banged up with squares between Saturn and Neptune. So it may not look like there's a lot going on Friday, but there actually kind of is. We're going to continue to watch the moon go through Sag, and then we're going to see Venus pick up the square at 21, and she's going to start squaring Uranus the whole day. The whole day. So disruptions in relationships and finances. We've also got moon square Saturn in the morning, which is hard to emotionally relate, and we're feeling like there's some emotional blocks. So definitely I could see this as people having a difficult time because they need their freedom and they're not sure how to communicate or how to like express things or how to relate to other people. Then we have Neptune, which is going to go retrograde, which having now 2 planets retrograde in Pisces is a bit of a doozy, because on one hand, we're now really getting tested with Saturn. We're starting to see the effects if we haven't been making the commitments to where Saturn is in our chart. And now things feel a little bit heavier. They feel a little bit more challenged. And then Neptune retrograde, it does give us the opportunity to try to gain more clarity, but we also can kind of start to see where our lack of commitment to something can also create some problems. So there's a lot going on this day. Something else that you're also going to be seeing is you're going to be seeing a Sun-Mercury cazimi. Now that I think actually was taking place closer to 8 degrees, if I remember correctly. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it is 9 degrees. Is it 8 or is it 9? I thought it was 8. Where is it? I guess it's going to be 9. Okay, so you're going to see early morning on the 1st. So this is going to be going into Saturday, okay? There will be a Sun-Mercury cazimi in the sign of Cancer. And you guys know what that is. That's when we see Mercury pull ahead of the Sun, and it's a superior position. It's relaying some information. I work with a 1 degree orb, so as long as it's within 1 degree of the Sun and Mercury is ahead of the Sun, this is where you're going to get some like intuitive insight, something that's kind of like tapping in. We've seen the Sun and Saturn in a trine, towards the end of the week, which is about stabilizing our emotional goals and our boundaries and reflecting on the past and our emotional needs. We've also seen Mercury in a trine with the South Node, so we've been reflecting on the past and consciously letting things go. So this is probably a day where you're going to have some kind of intuitive download or insight. Some information might pop up that you weren't expecting to get. There might be some kind of shock or surprise. And these two planets are just, I guess the dispositor is the moon, and we've got the moon in Sag. So likely there's going to possibly be like some kind of unexpected global news. This is a Sag sign, and this is a Sag degree. Pay attention to your emotions and your feelings. Look at where Cancer is in your chart. Likely that's where there's going to be some kind of insight from the universe. And I really like that when the cazimi happens, we're going to see a sextile to Jupiter. So the Sun and Mercury coming into conjunction, the true kind of like heart-mind connection, getting on page with, making sense of our emotions and being more positive and optimistic about our feelings and about where our life is going. Still, we have Venus square Uranus. So, I mean, it's going to be pretty much Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week. You guys are going to be feeling this. Can there be some good news in the midst of what can be some really uncomfortable transits? Yeah, I think there can be. But I think it's going to be about people being honest and speaking from the heart and trying to be more so conscious and aware of their emotional needs, their financial needs, and like really practicing being in the body. And generally good news can come when Mercury sextiles Jupiter. It's with sextiles though, you got to do the work. So because the Sun and Mercury are the faster moving planet, some kind of conversation may come about that allows you to have more security, more stability. Maybe you have an intuitive hit about what you should do with your finances or where you should invest or whether you should be buying some, type of food to potentially like keep in the cabinet for safekeeping. Something like that. But these are signs that deal with home and domestic and land and resources. So I think a lot of people are going to be like, things are kind of weird out there. Maybe I'm going to like stock up the fridge. And some kind of information possibly coming out about, the real estate market. That might be another thing that we're going to be hearing about. Okay, so that's pretty much Saturday in a nutshell. Know that this Mercury trine Saturn energy that's really around towards the tail end of the week is really positive for mental discipline. And you'd never think that with Saturn retrograde, but I think when you have the Sun and Mercury in a trine, it is kind of saying like, it can help us emotionally, having structure, having routine, taking that time to rest, recuperate, to meditate, and to kind of check in with ourselves that is necessary. And it can be really helpful for helping us better navigate our emotions. And remember that with this Neptune retrograde, which is going to go on for a number of months, it's notorious. I mean, Neptune in general brings foggy energy, but the retrograde can bring up things that we were not aware of, and now they're back up for evaluation. Some of us find that it's more difficult to like focus. There might be stuff that's missing or information that's missing or things that don't make sense. And really, when we have 2 planets retrograde in the sign of Pisces, they want us to go deeper and turn inward and reflect. So you can work with this Mercury trine Saturn, Sun trine Saturn, really towards the tail end of the week by taking a little time to yourself. And then finally, when we get to Sunday, which is going to be the 2nd, when we wake up, we are going to start seeing the moon coming into a square with Neptune. So the early morning hours, it's kind of like emotionally, we're kind of feeling like discombobulated. Moon square Neptune is like, I don't know what I want, and I'm not sure, and things are changing, and that kind of stuff. On the flip side, we do see the moon that's coming into a trine with Mars and Venus. So there is some really positive energy here on Sunday revolving around excitement and creativity and taking chances and having fun and maybe traveling or something like that. But I'm not wild about the moon square Neptune, because to me it feels like a little like delirious and like, anything is possible. And then it's like, wait a second, actually it's not. We can't do that. It's Sunday. And kind of like our dreams running away with themselves a little bit. And what we're going to see in the later morning is that then the moon is going to ingress into Capricorn. So obviously we're coming into the full moon. So you guys are really going to be feeling this energy. The sun will have been in a sextile with Jupiter as well. So we feel like something is growing, something is expanding. Venus is still in a square to Uranus over the weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that energy is in the skies. And we're going to see that moon come into Capricorn. And as soon as it does, it starts trining the north node. So when the moon's in Capricorn, we're busy. We're a little bit more action oriented. Sometimes we're focusing on our career. We're focusing on getting things in order. We're trying to kind of check things off of our to-do list. And I like the moon in a trine to the north node. I like the moon in a trine to Jupiter as well. You're going to see that heavily featured in the full moon. If you guys didn't already see my full moon video that I did on Capricorn, honestly, I really love this moon. Trines to Jupiter makes it big, it makes it abundant, it makes it expansive. Sextiles to Saturn give us the emotional stability and the spiritual support that we need to kind of see some of these things through. Full moons are completions, and it's definitely a highlight of emotions. So it's kind of wild to kind of go through this week where we see a number of squares to Uranus. First Mars, where there's conflict. Venus, where there's the relationship fallout or the financial fallout or changes. And then boom, a full moon. So, Capricorn full moon, for us, I think that it can be talking about our goals and our commitments to our responsibilities out in the world. And also who we are out in the world. And we see big things happening around government with a full moon in Capricorn. Really nice aspects. Sextile to Saturn, trine to Jupiter, a slight trine to Uranus. It's not so bad. I think the only real troublemaker is going to be the Venus-Uranus square. But that was kind of like hanging around all week long. We will also see that this is Venus's first square to Uranus. So there will be 2 other times in the retrograde that Venus will square off with Uranus. So you may want to pay attention to what's happening Saturday and Sunday, where there's some disruptions in relationships or where there's some disruptions financially. And make a note of it, because as Venus retrogrades back to this, which she will over the summertime several times, you may see similar kind of upsets, right? And it can be as simple as going like, I just need a break. We need to do something different this weekend. I want to eat a different kind of food. I want to, wear a different color. I just need a little freedom. Give me a little bit of space. So some people can kind of react like that when there's some pressure between Venus and Uranus. And people definitely wanting to blow off steam. Okay, we got a lot of planets in Leo right now. So there's definitely a lot of people wanting to have fun and wanting to cut loose. But I think the challenge is how much do we need to spend on fun, and is more necessarily better? And does it feel good and fulfilling to just go out and, do all of these things and go to the bars and go to the clubs? Because that's very Leo. Or is it potentially, are we paying for it at the end of the weekend when we realize how much money we have spent? Because that can come with some of these squares. My video for the full moon, I talk about how the full moon hangover is going to be pretty gnarly. Because this full moon is going to be at 11 degrees, and right after the full moon, the moon opposes Mercury, which means we're going to have a tough time emotionally relating and communicating. It's going to come into a trine with Uranus, which means situations are changing. This is going to be on the 3rd. And then it's going to come into a conjunction with Pluto, and that is going to be on the 4th of July. So I know that's taking us into next week, but I'm just letting you guys know, even though we have that full moon on the 3rd, really the 2nd through the 4th is like action-packed. Please be mindful with the Mars-Uranus squares. If you are anywhere where there is going to be fireworks or explosives, I see a lot of accidents with these aspects. I also see a lot of car accidents with these aspects. So please be safe if you are going out and doing anything over that holiday weekend. If you're going to be out, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these energies are in the sky. There could definitely be lots of drama. So be mindful of your environment and who's around you, because people are going to definitely be extremely temperamental. If you haven't already seen the video for the full moon in Capricorn, do check it out. And if you guys want to know more about these Venus-Uranus squares and some of these cycles, I recommend checking out my website. You guys can head over to my website, and you can see my Venus retrograde webinar. I've got a link for it. You guys can watch the playback on that if you would like to. It is now for sale. And it's really important. It's been really helpful. We've had a lot of people who have taken it that have given feedback that were like, okay, now I have the whole list of dates and I know which house Venus is going through and the squares it's going to make to Uranus. I'm better prepared, and I know kind of like what things might come up. Because with retrogrades, there's reversals. So we could see a lot of people spend a lot of money and then a month later realize like, oh my gosh, you know, now I have unexpected expenses. I should have never done that. That can help you be prepared. If you're somebody who's already astrologically savvy, you can go and also watch my Venus in Leo video. I took it all the way up until right before Venus goes retrograde. I'm going to be working on a Venus retrograde video. It's going to probably come out sometime later in July. So not to keep you guys on a cliffhanger, but those of you guys who want to know early, go ahead and check that out if you want. I'm also doing a sale on my website right now. So I'm doing BOGO. So it's buy one, get one half off on my astrology courses, only my astrology 101 and 201. I teach astrology. I teach beginners astrology. So if you've been wanting to learn astrology, you can get up to $200 off of my courses combined together. I'll make sure that we put some information in the description so you guys can have the coupon code so you can make the most of that. We're only having the sale through the end of June, so it's only going to be for like the next week or so. So if you guys want to check that out, you can. And I'm very excited to be having all kinds of new stuff that's going to be coming out on the website very soon. I can't talk about it quite yet, but if you guys check out my website, you go to beyondtheveiltarot.com, you can sign up for my newsletter. You'll get alerted as to when I have like new courses or webinars or products on my page, but I'm planning on having some new stuff in July. And I also have a special report for the Venus retrograde. So if you want to know how the Venus retrograde is going to impact you, check out my website. You can go to book a reading. You can see all of my services, including the Venus retrograde in Leo report. We'll send you an audio report of how that's going to be impacting you this summer. All right, guys. Well, this is the week ahead. I hope it's a good one for you. I really do. Let me know, how are you feeling with these energies? Were you born with Mars square Uranus natally? What is that like? Are you constantly looking to rumble? I anticipate that it's going to be entertaining nevertheless, but please be safe out there, guys. Leave me your likes, comments, shares, and don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to hear from you guys and how you're navigating this week ahead and what you're doing to maybe better manage some of these explosive energies. I will be obviously back here on Tuesday and Thursday. We're going to put out some other videos for you. And I will be doing a live video on Friday where I'm going to be doing live astrology readings. This is a really great week because I'm constantly booked. So I usually have clients booked 2 months at a time. So I've had some of you guys comment me and also email. My schedule is just really compact right now because of my my content filming. I'm filming 4 videos a week for YouTube. So between that and seeing my clients, I'm a very busy lady. But if you can't wait to get a reading or you want to get a reading that's at a more affordable rate, I'm here Friday nights. We do live readings and I always post the link generally like Wednesday or Thursday before. So make sure you're watching my community tab because I'll post a link where you guys can sign up for an astrology reading. We're doing donation-based readings on Friday night. So it's going to be 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you're having all these crazy squares that's impacting your chart, or if you've got a lot of planets in the late degrees of the fixed signs, come join us. You can get a reading. You can kind of hang out. We always have a really fun group there of usually between like 40 and 60 people. And you guys can watch me do readings live and kind of just come hang out. All right, so I will be back in this next week with some more content, hopefully some juicy stuff in regards to breaking down some of the other aspects for the week ahead. I'm wishing you guys a happy Monday, Sunday, Monday, depending on when you're watching this. And I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.